So I have a plan, and this is a crazy plan, to run a 5K. Where does this idea start? Well, for one, the idea starts with I want to fall in love with things I hate. And my whole life, including with school, including with growing up, I've had asthma. We'll get into all of that, but I've hated running forever. But I also know that I want to fall in love with things I hate that are good for me, that are healthy for me. And running is definitely one of those things. So I definitely need to learn and figure out how and what to do. So for the year of 2026, as we are in, it is probably February by the time I'm posting this. I am going to take the entire year and we're going to walk through it. I'm going to take the entire year and train for a 5K. Now, why chronic illness to 5K? Great, you ask. So, if you didn't know, hi, I'm Abby. I have multiple chronic illnesses. Welcome to the party. And I like to challenge myself. And I also like to not be the kind of person who lets my chronic illness defeat me because I still like to try to live as normal as a life as I humanly can, even though my chronic illness does take up a lot of my brain power and a lot of my health. But we'll get there. So, for starters, I'm going to go through my notes and we're going to just copy this along. So, more or less, this whole video is going to be my health journey, my training plan that I already have set up, and goals and things like that. So, I've had histamine intolerance my whole life. I've had stomach issues from the histamine intolerance my whole life. I've also had lymphatic asthma, which is basically it's a little different than regular asthma. When you run and you take over an hour to get your breath back, you're still puffing and puffing. You probably have some sort of asthma. You should get your breath back within I forget what the old way used to be when I was 11, but to my knowledge, I think it's like 15 minutes or so afterwards. I don't know if that's still true for me. We're about to find out, but I've had that forever. And then COVID 22 didn't make any of these symptoms any better. I've had tilt table tests for my POTS syndrome. I have fibromyalgia because of nerve pain for my histamines. I also have Sjogren's, which is really hard to say and really hard to spell. It's basically ear, nose, and throat dryness, but we'll get there. That's not that big of a thing for me. And then within 2025, we found out that I have myopathic ADS syndrome, which is myopathic Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which that's a hard one for me to pronounce. And it is genetic of some way, shape, or form. And then also over top of that, I eat very keto and very type 2 diabetic kind of a diet, more or less, with anything. So no carbo loading for this girl. No, no. If anything, we carbo load with peanut butter and apples. That's how we carbo load here. I'm on a very strict diet with most of the things, which I'm hoping to also fix this year with histamine foods, but we will see. That's kind of the chronic illness end of this story is we're going to be walking through a lot of this together. And then you're probably thinking in your head, Abby, you have all these issues. Why would you try to, I don't know, do a 5K? Well, I'll tell you this much. One, in hindsight to this whole story, I really don't plan on running a marathon or running even a 10K or running any more after this. I just want to train my body to a healthier state, and it's a nice goal to hit that is also small. If you did not know, a 5K is only 3.1 miles to be exact. And I can already walk that decently. If I'm in a mall, if I'm in an amusement park, if I'm in an event space of some sort, I can do that without thinking about it. Easily peasily. No problem. Walk it. You know what I mean? So I already have a little bit of leeway. And I also want a preference with talking about chronic illness. My chronic illness is not the same how other people's works. And every single person on this planet that has chronic illness is not going to be the same journey as mine. And I am fully aware of that. I hope you're not aware of chronic illness. I hope you're aware of that. So if you Google someone with my symptoms and that they should be, don't do that because everyone's story is going to be different. Every single situation is going to be different. So let's not even go there. But again, I already premised myself to where I'm like, I have a goal and I'm already halfway there to where I can at least already walk a 5K. I can easily walk without thinking about it a 5K. So I know my body's able to do it. So that's thing number one. And then thing number two is there's actually a 5K that runs right past my house every single year. and that is the 5K that I'm signing up for. So it's also a small town 5K. It's not the turkey trot. I refuse to run on a holiday. That's not happening. But this 5K is part of my town's 5K. So I will be running in that. And then I also have already thought about it of do I want to run in virtual ones? We'll get there though. We'll get there. Anyway, so over top of all of this, I'm basically starting from scratch with everything, and I have to kind of make my own training plan and my own where I'm starting with things because I'm not doing couch to 5K. Couch to 5K is not a thing for me. I already know I'm going to have to take a year. Most people who do couch to 5K, it takes them 20 weeks. That's insane to me. Anyone with chronic illness will tell you you have to progress very slowly. So that is what I am doing aggressively. And things, let me go through the list of things that I've already been pretty much doing or my thing. So I've already been doing a dance class for a solid year. I think it's been 18 months, I think, since my last membership that I done. I do it on YouTube and love them. Love every second of it. Good cardio, and I love the dance anyway, so beyond the belief. So I already have that going for me. I don't plan on canceling that anytime soon. And I also haven't really done hardcore training programs probably since I was in high school and I did marching band and color guard where I had a strict schedule. It was that kind of thing every week and we eat certain things. And I didn't really watch my nutrition then, which I am now, but that's a different story. But and I'm also like, I feel like I have my nutrition pretty down pat at this point. It took me a solid year to do that with histamines and with type 2 and keto and finding what foods work for me and still getting enough carbs and sugars, but healthier carbs and sugars than just a donut. No, that's not the right kind that will fuel my body, that will actually make me sick for days. And then also, I really don't have shoes. So I did have to go out and buy some, which I just bought some last weekend, and I've walked in them on the treadmill twice already. As I'm making this video, I just walked actually this morning. And I was told, I did a lot of research on YouTube, probably for a solid month and a half before I even wrote this up or anything. And the most important thing that I saw, they were like, whatever you're doing, whatever training plan, whatever food you go on, whatever you do, if you're thinking about running of any sort for any length amount of time, if you're thinking about running, the most important thing you need to do is go to a shoe store and get proper shoes. Spend the money on them. You literally don't even need a watch. You don't need these fancy plans. You don't need to pay for anything else. That is the number one thing that I kept seeing from most of the majority of the YouTubers, unless they were like sponsored by those brands or something, which will never be my case. But so that's what I did first. And I was just like, well, before I really get into super hardcore running, let me just get a pair of shoes. So I'll try to list them below, but I did get the Brooks Adrenaline GT 25s, and they're like tan ones because I wanted to try to have them match with all my stuff. And I wear very neutral tones most of the time anyway. Or if I do with white and blue and green, those are really the only three colors I have in my closet, or four colors. So, and I don't actually have a running store where I live, but I actually had a running store where my full-time job is. And that running store is apparently the top in the nation or something. They're great. They're called Run More if you're interested, Westminster, Maryland. Shout you guys out if you are interested, but they're great. I forget the guy's name who actually helped me out. It wasn't the owner, of course, but they were great and awesome. Highly will recommend them if you need a shoe store. Parking was a little interesting, but digress. That's like number one thing I saw from people. So that's literally the number one thing I did. And then I have basically goals set after that, but we'll get there. I do already have a Samsung Watch 7, which is literally on my wrist now. I've had that for at least a solid year now, and it's okay. It's obviously not my favorite for running, and at least has workout programs and stuff like I can do within. So I'm like, if I happen to love running at the end of this, maybe I'll invest in some stuff. But I really want to try not to spend a lot this whole year of year and stuff like that. Also, I tried Strava. I'm just gonna laugh a little because I tried Strava, and specifically I tried it on my phone, and I have it on my watch still, but it just would not connect. I don't know what was going on, and I don't know. It was good for tracking out actual paths that I want to take for future. But other than that, this is kind of dumb, and I can't really use the training plan because I'm chronic illness and all that crap. So like Strava we have a little beef at the moment. I'm hoping to get back into it because it seems like a really good social media platform for runners, but we'll get there when we get there. Also, technically, which I don't, the medal's literally around my corner and I didn't grab any of my stuff that I have already. I have technically walked a 3K already. And I did walk, it's a virtual 3K where it was just like, I wanted to see how the virtual races worked. I was like, let's get into that. That'll be a whole nother video later. Because virtual races are really cool for people that like don't have a lot of things in their area or just want to meet goals or even for step taking during the day. They're great for that. I'll get into that in a whole separate video, but even the Disney virtual races, these are bougie, but also, just a slight side note to what I've been talking about of just like where I'm starting with things. I am running the areas that I have outside of me are very rural and sort of city, but very small town city, if that makes sense. It's not like Philly or Pittsburgh. It's not crazy. So I at least have some sidewalks to go off of, and I at least do have a coffee shop that I can run within a mile. But I'm probably not going to do that at least till spring because, again, progression. So I am actually kind of excited about that. I at least don't have to run farms or that kind of thing, but it also gets insanely cold. We're actually dealing with a snowstorm right now where this morning my husband and I were out and it was 8 degrees. 8. And then it said, feels like -2. And I was like, no, gym. Thank the Lord we have a gym, which that's actually my next thing, which luckily I have a gym in walking distance, which is usually where the 5K is. So they have treadmills there. They've actually redone their gym since I originally went there a few years ago. And everything is so nice. Love every second of it. I definitely can see different parts of the gym where I can start to use because I've done so much research on running and stuff. So very excited on that bit. I've also thought about it. I'm like, do I want to be a morning runner? Do I want to be an afternoon runner? I will be running when I get home from work. That is when I walk, when I run. If anything, like, we'll get into my training program later, but it will be either on Saturdays, first thing in the morning, and first thing meaning 9 or 10 a.m. And then other than that, I would be running when I get home from work. So there's a digress there. Also, so far, the only thing that I've really researched is my pre workout, which is going to be an apple and some peanut butter. Also, I've been told over and over and over again with chronic illness and things like that, that slow and steady is truly going to win the race in this one because I can easily already push and then hurt myself more in the long run. And that could not happen with this because I'm like, I do want to meet my goal, obviously. But if I push like normal people do, I will get myself hurt massively. I have a connective tissue disorder. I can easily pull things out of my sockets all the time, like my shoulder, my fingers, all the things. And also, I can tear joints really quickly. So let's not do that by over pushing ourselves and doing an actual workout plan that normal people can do because my body's a little different than everybody else's. I also downloaded Spotify-ish again, and I've been using Spotify instead of YouTube Music. And I also purchased the audiobook and playlist extended version so that way I can listen to them whenever I want. So that way on runs and walks, I don't have to listen to music. I can actually listen to somebody talk, which is somewhat more interesting. So I already have some podcasts picked out and I already have some audiobooks picked out because again, love reading. And then also, I don't have anyone that I can run with. I'm also kind of terrified to run with anybody because I'm like, you're not going to be able to go the pace that I can go because I need to walk. And everyone's going to be. So I hope I make a friend eventually. But at least for the starter of things, we're going to be doing this pretty much by myself. So more or less, I might have to so I'm looking at my notes here and I wrote these notes before I did my workout plan. So two things. If you're in this part of the video, thank you for staying, but we're not almost done. But there's a couple videos that are probably going to be linked down below that have motivated me or to help me in this journey. One is Mykie, who she's been on YouTube for years. She's basically known for being an FX special makeup artist, basically. She's worked for crazy places. She's one of my favorite YouTubers of all time. And now, she's sort of doing workout content. And she has actually a lot of similar illnesses that I do, not all the same. And her video on working out that it took her 7 years to get where she is really put it in perspective of why I can't work out the way that normal people do. And you got to adapt it to the way that works well for you. So that's what I've had to do. And she really helped me motivate that. So I'll try to put that video of her talking about that down below. And if you're interested in her, she's super cool. And then two, there is a video on a guy, I think he's a personal trainer. And I don't actually know his name, but his video will be down below what I'm about to talk about. That he made a video comparing basically workout plans that people do and how Chatgpt can make you a workout plan. And I was like, I'm interested. Give me 10 minutes of your time. And it's more in depth than I thought it was because it's basically him asking ChatGPT very specific questions to make him a workout plan. And not only that, it actually takes it into a workout plan and then puts it into an Excel spreadsheet, which is now what I've done. And not only have I done this, but I was able to be very specific with it with my chronic illness and all those things to where it really only has me walking or running like maybe once or twice a week. The rest of it is mobility and strength training the majority of the week. And I think I have off 2 to 3 days a week, almost every single week. And it's also 4D weeks long for me, which I'm cool with. Again, I knew it was going to take almost all year. So come on. But I'm like kind of starting in the middle of January just because of life. So both of those videos will be linked down below. If you would like to see my Excel spreadsheet information, I can definitely send that to you. Just comment down below, send me your work because I definitely am so proud of that. I actually have it in a couple different categories to where the first category is what every week it is mobility on Monday, strength training upper on Tuesday, Wednesday I have off. Thursday is your walk, and then Friday you have off. Saturday is usually strength training lower. And then it goes through every 40 weeks during that and it paces things out and lessons when it gets closer to the race and stuff like that. And then the second sheet is actually what each individual workout should be. Oh, arm circles and wall sits and things for mobility or whatever. It literally maps it out of what each individual thing I should do. And then it goes even harder for me to where it's like, then you have a questionnaire that like, should you even work out today because of my chronic health? And I was like, ChatGPT, I love you. To where it literally is like, did you get enough sleep? Are you having histamine problems? Then check back to one and have a rest day and all of those things to where I even have my goal sheet on there and I'm also having a pricing guide of everything so far that I've bought to help with everything that I've been going through of I bought extended versions of Spotify. I bought my medal already for the 3K and just things like that. Like I want to keep track of that and put my shoes on there and everything like that. So it's definitely been super interesting. But over top of that whole work plan, because I am going to 100% follow that, the second thing is that my nutrition over top of that is sort of not going to change to my normal everyday life. I might add a couple of my easy whole grain fiber carbs on some certain days, or an apple, which is good carbs, good sugar, to where they're more natural in that aspect. And other than that, it's not really changing. If you're interested in what I eat on a daily basis, also comment then down below if you're highly interested. It seems very boring and it kind of reminds me if you watch Mykies video, it's kind of like how she eats, but my food is very specific to me because I'm allergic to a lot of things with being histamine intolerant, but that's a digress. So with all of that being said, is that I have a couple goals for the next 3 months. I have a couple goals for the end of this. And I think with all of this being said, with like chronic illness 5K, I'm just now starting. My biggest goal is that I want to just find fun in running. I'm not looking for a pace. I'm not looking to necessarily get healthier in a sense because I'm very thin, so it's hard to track that. But just find fun in actual running throughout all of this. Two, obviously, run the 5K. The 5K is in October if you're curious. And then basically, I do want to try to film as much as I humanly can. It might be through YouTube videos. I'm not sure yet. I'll film when I can or when I have ideas about stuff. So that's kind of main goals about things. But the next 3 months, I will probably say until March, my three biggest focus are focusing on breathing because with my EDS and with my anxiety, and I've just realized that I don't breathe enough. And also focusing through breathing through your nose. I might have another video on that that might be linked down below about talking about asthma and breathing and all that stuff. And then just learning things about running that I didn't know before. I actually just started to read the runner's code and I think I'm 40% in. And so far, I'm not really liking it, which it's like basic etiquette. Don't get me wrong, it's basic things that are human fact. But like, the reason why I don't like it is because whoever the author is or whoever like, wrote it is very much just like bashing people. And what I mean is that like, they're basically all the people who are screaming at people while they're running or whatever it is. And of course, those people do need to calm down, like, trust me. But I even see it from the other perspective that it's like you're literally just straight out calling people rude. And I'm like, you maybe could have put this in a YouTube video and just moved on. But I digress. I'll get through the book eventually, but it kind of has just very basic things that like already knew, but like, they're having to reiterate for people who are just rude as crap, truthfully. And lastly, my last goal that I have within these next 3 months until March is I want to get my hydration down. My hydration's been a little weird. I have POTS, so there's certain salts and certain potassiums that I'm also allergic to because of histamines. So it's a little bit of a shot in the dark with some certain things, but more or less, come along on this journey. We're going to try to learn how to run a 5K until October. We're going to see how it goes. I'm going to try to film as much as it as I humanly can, but also I'm editing my videos for now, but we'll see how that goes too. But life is going to be crazy. Let's just, I guess, see how this goes. I'm excited. And if anyone has tips or if anyone wants to go running that knows me, super interested. I will say one thing to you is that if it's cold outside, I'm not going. Just funny side note is that literally this morning we went to the gym and just to get into the car over to the gym, which is in walkable distance to my house, we drove still. All of my hands turn white from my Raynaud syndrome. And within 15 minutes of me just walking, it took 15 minutes to turn my hands back to pink. If you don't know what Raynaud syndrome is, look it up. Basically, loss of circulation in your fingers and it turns them pale white. Super fun. So, no running in the cold for me, which is why I'm walking and running on treadmills until it gets warmer, which is hopefully the spring. And then, other than that, I'm doing mobility, strength training, and dancing at home because I did get exercise bands as well. But I'll try to film as much as I humanly can about it because it's so interesting to me. But if you're interested in anything or have any other questions, comment them down below. I am always on YouTube compared to any other social media. So thanks for watching.